Welcome to this video about the mock trial of Abrams versus United States, a defining free speech case from 1919. The plaintiff was the United States federal government. The defendants, including Jacob Abrams, were Russian-born anarchists charged with violating the 1918 amendments to the Espionage Act. They distributed anti-war leaflets in New York City, criticizing U.S. involvement in World War I. In August 1918, Abrams and others distributed leaflets denouncing U.S. intervention against the Bolsheviks and calling for a general strike in ammunition factories. The government argued the intent was to hinder the war effort, while the defense claimed it was political dissent. The core facts revolve around the distribution of anti-war leaflets during World War I and the subsequent federal prosecution. Key facts include the defendants being Russian-born anarchists charged under the 1918 Espionage Act amendments for distributing leaflets that urged a general strike. The district court convicted all defendants, leading to a significant moment in free speech law. The Espionage Act of 1917 criminalized anti-war activities. The 1918 Sedition Act amendment significantly broadened these restrictions, prohibiting disloyal or abusive language and targeting political dissent to protect the war effort. The Espionage Act aimed to obstruct military operations and penalized promoting insubordination in the armed forces. These restrictions were later expanded by the 1918 Sedition Act. The Bolsheviks rejected Tsarist war commitments and prioritized consolidating Soviet power, focusing on internal issues and anti-imperialist ideology, which informed the defendants' anti-war stance. The U.S. District Court convicted all defendants for violating the Espionage Act. The jury found them guilty on all counts, resulting in harsh sentences of up to 20 years. The Supreme Court affirmed the convictions in a 7-2 verdict, ruling that the leaflets intended to impede war production. Justice Holmes, however, penned a famous dissenting opinion for the minority. In his powerful dissent, Justice Holmes argued against the majority's ruling. He introduced the influential concept of the, quote, marketplace of ideas, and urged judicial restraint regarding political speech. This mock trial focuses on the prosecution's case against Abrams and the other defendants in the 1918 trial. The prosecution presented key witnesses like Detective William B. Matthews and John E. Cassidy, while the defense featured figures like Morris Hillquit. Detective William B. Matthews testified for the prosecution about seizing the printing equipment used to produce the leaflets. His evidence supported the government's theory of obstruction of the war effort. Matthews' testimony regarding the seized equipment reinforced the government's obstruction theory, strengthening the prosecution's case and contributing to the guilty verdict. Prosecution witness John E. Cassidy provided testimony regarding the seized anti-war leaflets. His evidence further supported the government's obstruction case, helping to convince the jury of the defendant's guilt. Morris Hillquit, a defense witness, testified as an expert on the Bolshevik movement. He provided political context for the defendant's views, supporting the defense's argument for political dissent. Prosecution witnesses offered key incriminating evidence, supporting the government's theory that the defendants obstructed the war. These accounts significantly contributed to the final guilty verdict against the Russian anarchists. The prosecution argued that the leaflets were intended to impede U.S. military operations by urging workers to halt ammunition production. They claimed these actions posed a danger to national security, criminalized by the Espionage Act. Abrams versus United States became a pivotal case in 1918, highlighting the fight for free speech and political dissent under the constraints of the Espionage Act. The defense theory centered on free speech, arguing the leaflets were political dissent and not intended to cause harm. They maintained that the First Amendment protects expressing unpopular political views, which did not pose an immediate danger. The defense asserted that the leaflets represented protected political dissent and that free speech is vital for unpopular views. They argued the content posed no immediate danger, emphasizing the protection of political expression. The defense struggled due to the absence of key witnesses with strong legal standing, forcing them to rely heavily on the political context argument. This limited their ability to counter the government's factual claims, leaving prosecution witnesses largely unchallenged. The defense aimed to establish that the defendants' actions were rooted in political commentary and protected speech. A core aspect of the defense was asserting the defendants' right to political expression, even during wartime. Defense counsel argued that the core issue was freedom of speech, asserting the First Amendment protects unpopular political dissent, and that the expression posed no immediate danger. The defense planned to call Emma Goldman, a well-known anarchist, to support their political dissent argument. However, the court ultimately prevented her from testifying. Alexander Berkman, a prominent Russian-born anarchist, championed workers' rights and dissent. His alignment with the defendant's anti-war views highlighted the political speech core of the case. Berkman, a prominent anarchist writer, published influential anti-war literature. His focus on workers' rights and dissent provided context for the political nature of the defendant's actions. Socialist witness Rose Pastor Stokes testified for the defense, supporting the argument of political dissent and providing context for the defendant's views. Socialist journalist John Reed's extensive reporting on the Bolshevik Revolution and support for radical causes provided further context on revolutionary socialist ideology central to the defense's argument. Defense witnesses provided ideological context to support the political dissent and free speech theory. However, their testimony did not successfully counter the prosecution's factual claims, impacting the final verdict. The Abrams versus United States trial ultimately tested the boundaries of the First Amendment during wartime. The legacy of the Abrams case lies in the enduring debate over freedom of speech, especially the influential dissent by Justice Holmes.